Hello, this is Chapter 4, Frequently Asked Questions. Let's take a look at some of those frequently asked questions. First question, how do I plot a coordinate pair? How do I plot a point? First of all, let's recap that the x-axis is the horizontal axis. The positive x's are to the right. The negative x's are to the left. The y-axis is the vertical axis. Positive y's are going up. Negative y's are going down. So now, when we see a coordinate pair, the first value is always the x, which tells you where on the x-axis you should go. The second value is always your y, which tells you how high or how low on your y-axis you should go. So the point 3, 5 means x is 3 and y is 5. So let's see, x3 would be 3 to the right, and then y5 would be up 5. And this is the point right here where x is 3 and y is 5. So that's where the coordinate pair 3, 5 goes. Here, again, it's always x comma y, just like the alphabet. It's always x and then y and then z. But don't worry, we're not going to graph in 3 dimensions. You can do that. X here is -1, so we go where x is -1. That'd be 1 to the left. And y is -4, so that'd be 4 down on the y-axis. That is where x is -1 and y is -4. All right, so that's the answer to our first frequently asked question. Next, how do I know if a point is a solution? So a solution to an equation is an ordered pair that makes the equation true. First, you're going to label the x number and the y number on the coordinate pair. So when I try this example below, this is my x and this is my y in the coordinate pair. Next, substitute the x number in place of x and the y number in place of y. So here I have a y on the left side of my equal sign. I'm going to take it out and put 1 in place of the y there. When you have a substitute teacher, your teacher, if Mr. P has a substitute, I leave and the substitute comes in place. Here the y leaves and the 1 comes in place. Now I have a 3 times x, but I'm not going to write down x. I'm going to write down 0 in place of x, substituting 0 in for x. I copied down the rest of the equation. So now, simplify the left and the right side of the equation if possible. Well, the left side is just 1. I can't simplify it anymore, but the right side is 3 times 0 plus 1. Punch that into your calculator, you do get 1 then. So, does the left side equal the right side? In this case, yes it does. So this point that we plugged in, is a solution, because it made a truthful statement. If I didn't get a truthful statement, I would say no, the point is not a solution. Next, frequently asked question, how do I graph a line using a table? Well, make sure that we write the equation with y as a function of x, which means that y equals and then everything else. Y is all by itself. Then you make a table of x and y values and plug x in to solve for y. Now, when you're doing that, I'd recommend that you choose a negative number, a 0, and a positive number for x. So I'm going to go -2, 0, and +2. And again, I substitute those in place of x in this equation to solve for y. So y is going to equal whatever 2 times -2 plus 3 is. And when I do that, I get -1. That means that when x is -2, y is -1. I'll come back to that in a second. Now I'm going to substitute 0 in place of x. When I simplify that, I get 3. That means that when x is 0, y is 3. Last but not least, I'm going to substitute in 2 for x. So 2 times 2 plus 3. When I do that, I get 7. So when x is 2, y is 7. Now, folks, we plot these coordinate pairs. So 2, 7 is right about there. 0, 3 is right about there. And -2, -1 is right about there. So from here, we graph that line. Zing, using a line through. Put arrows on your points. There's my line. And it should be a straight line. If it's not, double check your number crunching and double check your point plotting. You put your x and y together to get a coordinate pair, and you plot the point. How do I graph a line like x equals 5 or y equals -3? So no, these are kind of funny because it's just x equals a number, or the other one is just y equals a number. There's no other variable in there, and usually you do see two variables for equations. By the way, folks, we're going to make an XY table to start with, but then from here, folks, maybe put a bracket right here. Really just steps 2 through 4 will help us graph a line like x equals 5. Now if it's y equals, then you skip down to number 5. I didn't make that very clear in my instructions. So make an XY table, something like this. If we're graphing the line x equals 2, I'm going to follow these directions. So x equals 2 is the one that I'm graphing. So you put that number in your x column. X equals 2, put 2 in your x column. Put any number you want in for y, or put any number you want in the y column. I want 5. Repeat this process 2 more times. Put the number in for x and any number in for y. X is 2, so I have to keep putting 2's in for x's, but any number for y. I'm going to do that 2 more times. So there we go. Now plot the x, y points. So 2, 5, right 2, up 5 would be right about, right about there. 2, 0, right 2, up 0 would be right there. And 2, -2 would be right there. Now connect the dots, and it should, make a line. And it says, oh, sure enough, it'll be a vertical line. And it is. All right, let's try graphing the line y equals -3. To do that, we're going to, whatever number y equals, in this case -3, we're going to put that number in the y column over here. We're going to put -3 in for y, and then put any number you want in for the x column. I want the number 2. Repeat this process 2 more times. Put the number in for y. The number is -3, and any number you want in for x. Y is -3, any number I want for x. Now I'm going to plot those points. So 2, -3 is right there. 0, -3 is right here. -2, -3 is right there. And I'm going to connect the dots, and that's my line. And it should be a horizontal line. And it is. Awesome. How do I get the x and y intercept to graph a line? So first, we're going to substitute 0 in for x to get the, let me try reading that again. Substitute 0 in for y to get the x-intercept. So to get the x-intercept, I like to title my work here, y equals 0. Otherwise, I find like it gets a little confusing. So I'm going to put 0 in place of y in this equation. So 2x minus 3 times 0 equals 6. Now 3 times 0 is nothing, is 0. So really, I get 2x equals 6. So then x has to be 3. So y was 0, x is 3. I can plot that point right there, 3, 0. That is my x-intercept. That's where the line crosses the x-axis. Step number 2, substitute 0 in for x to get the y-intercept. So to get the y-intercept, x equals 0. So I'm going to put 0 into that equation. Now 2 times 0 is 0. So that's really nothing. So I really have -3y equals, equals 6. So to get y, I divide by -3. So y is -2. Now y is -2 when x is 0. So put your x and y together, 0, -2, and plot that point. It's right there. And now you just zing a line through your 2 points. Boom, shakalaka. Zing a line through the 2 points. It actually says that. Put arrows on both ends of the line. How do I graph a line in slope-intercept form? Now, slope-intercept formula looks like this, y equals mx plus b. So first of all, make sure it looks like that. Make sure y is all by itself. What number is being added to x? This is your y-intercept. Plot that on the y-axis. What number is being added to x here? It's a positive 1. Now, if it said minus 5, your y-intercept would be a negative 5. Next, what number is x getting multiplied by? That's the slope. So my slope, or m, is negative 2. Now, slope is rise over run. So if it's negative 2, you should divide that by 1. Now we're going to put our rise run arrows next to it. Because it's negative 2, I'm going to go down 2 for every unit I move 1 to the right. So from the y-intercept, move that amount from the y-intercept. Over and over. So from the y-intercept, I'm moving down 2, right 1. Down 2, right 1. And from the, I can then reverse the rise run arrows to get the other end of the line. So that means instead of going down 2, go up 2. Instead of going right 1, go left 1 from the y-intercept. Go up 2, left 1. See how that green dot lines up with my other points? It should. If it doesn't, double check how you did that. And now zing a line. Boom. Last but not least, how do I calculate slope? I'd recommend that you label the first point x1 and y1. I mean, this is your x1 and that is your y1, meaning your first x and your first y of the first point. Now this next point is your second point. So label that x2 and y2. It's your second x and your second y. Substitute numbers into the formula, and then we should simplify, by the way. And simplifying is really going to be a two-step process. So let's substitute in here. So my y2 value is negative 4. And then I subtract my y1 value, which is 2. On the bottom, x2 starts first, so that's negative 1, minus my x1, which is negative 3. And so now I simplify. Let's crunch the top. Negative 4 minus 2. Punch it in your calculator, or chop slash if you want to. You can still punch it in your calculator, but maybe it's easier to calculate now in your head. It's negative 6. Now on the bottom, again, we can, instead of chop slashing here, chop slash, I'm going to chop chop. Subtracting a negative 3 is the same as adding a positive 3. Negative 1 plus positive 3 is 2. So I just simplified the top and the bottom. Now, negative 6 over 2, I can divide both numbers by 2. And so that's the same as negative 3 over 1. Always try to simplify that fraction that you make, if you can. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Cool. That is our Chapter 4 toolkit.